Good morning to you, Alastair.
Hello, Julia.
I'm sure you are as confident as I am today that we're going to get a great trade deal with the EU and move forward to a brighter, better future.
I fear not, and I fear that what is happening is that all the many, many promises that were made by the Leave campaign are not coming to fruition. And one of them, if you remember, was that it would be very straightforward to do a trade deal with the EU, and also that we'd be able to do trade deals with other countries whose deals we would lose by leaving the EU from June the 24th, 2016. None of that has happened. And I think that what's becoming clearer and clearer to me is that this whole Brexit project, the people who are now urging Theresa May to walk away from a deal, to go straight to crash out of the EU and go straight to the WTO, they are basically what I call the old-fashioned hard right. They're the Redwoods and the Lawsons and the Carswells and the Farages, and dare I say it, the newspapers of the right as well. And that all of the things that were promised, virtually all of them now, are just evaporating. And I think no deal will be a catastrophe because it means guaranteed lower growth. There's not a single analysis anywhere in the world that says that that is not going to happen. Probably higher prices. We're already seeing the start of that even before Brexit. Higher inflation, higher unemployment. And I just think that, I mean, it's hard to feel sorry for Theresa May because, I think she's putting herself in a lot of these difficult situations, but she's a prisoner of these right-wingers who won't actually let her get on and try to do a decent deal.
Okay, well, you say we said it was going to be straightforward to do a trade deal. Well, I don't remember people saying it would be straightforward. I think the point was it is in the EU's interest to do a trade deal with us. And you say we haven't got trade deals with other countries, but you know perfectly well, Alastair, we're not allowed to do trade deals. We can't have any open formal negotiations even with other countries. Clearly, they're going on behind the scenes, but we're not allowed to talk about them openly before the end of March 2019. You say none of that has happened, but it can't happen yet.
No, but you see, I think that the whole argument from the Leave side has always been, and this was said during the campaign and it's been said since, that they need us as much as we need them. And it's just not the case. It's not the case. We are dependent for 45% of our imports and exports with the EU. If you wrap in all the other countries around the world where we have trade deals because we are part of the EU, you get closer to 90%. Where do we go to fill the gap? They, the other 27, they lose about 10%. Now, that's a lot. I'm not saying it's insignificant, but it's not the same. And it certainly is not the case that they need us as much as we need them. So they are in a better bargaining position. And I actually don't think it was unreasonable for them at the start of these negotiations to say we have to sort the so-called divorce bill. And I think there's something profoundly wrong. But let me just finish the point. There's something profoundly wrong about our government saying they don't think they should pay pension liabilities.
They haven't said that. I don't, Alastair. You know perfectly well they haven't said that. Okay. They have. I mean, you literally know that what you just said was a lie. Yeah, they haven't said that.
No, it's not. Julia, don't accuse me of lying.
No, they haven't said that.
I was with John Redwood the other day.
John Redwood. Last time, John Redwood is not in the government, Alastair.
No, but the point I just made, Julia, is that she is now, the tail is being, the dog is being wagged by the tail.
Here's the thing. Look, you say they don't need us.
Without liabilities. They do need us, but not
No, I'm just saying, you say they don't need us as much as we need them. That'll be their choice. It is in the interests of all the other EU countries and us that we get a free trade deal. If they choose not to go ahead with a free trade deal, they choose to cut the limit trade with our country, it will harm us to a certain extent. And it will also harm them to a certain extent. But that would be them politically cutting off their nose to spite their face to punish us. There is no other reason other than an attempt to punish the British people and the British government for holding a democratic vote to decide our future. Other than that, there is no reason not to do a trade deal. Why do you want to be part of an organisation that wants to punish us for having a democratic vote?
I don't. But this is all part of the sort of paranoid delusion that
There's nothing paranoid about it.
Yes, it is.
Free trade is how the global economy has increased.
Do you want an answer or not?
Go on then.
You've asked a question. I'll give you the answer. The reason I say that is for decades now, people like you have basically projected the European Union as something that is done to us, not something that we can be part of and be a positive player within. They, at the moment, are conducting a negotiation based on the fact that we, the UK, have taken a vote to leave. In those circumstances, given that we before long, if this goes according to what passes for a plan, we will be a third country. They are entitled to negotiate in their interest.
Absolutely.
Now, they set out at the start, let me finish, they set out at the start 3 areas where they felt it was reasonable, given that we were leaving. Nobody was asking us to leave. We voted to leave, as you say. The Irish border, what's called the divorce bill, the settlement, and also the rights of EU nationals in the UK and UK nationals in the rest of the EU. Now, it seems to me that those should have been fairly straightforward. It is not, in my view, the European Union that is making this difficult. It's the British government that are making this difficult.
The European Union think that the European Court of Justice should have power over European Union citizens while they are in Britain. And you think that's not unreasonable? A foreign court having control over what happens in this country after we leave the EU, and you think that's reasonable?
Let me just tell you something. You're going about the ports. We do not even have a customs infrastructure at our ports.
I didn't say ports, I said courts.
If you go... sorry, I thought you said ports. If they're in negotiation, we're in a negotiation. We are no further forward in terms of what Britain has told them that we want. We are barely further forward than we were on June the 24th, 2016. And the reason for that, Julia, one day, people like you, I think, will wake up to this. The reason we're no further forward is because this cannot be done without damaging our economy.
Okay, Alastair, I know you haven't got much time, so let me get to a couple other questions. What would a good deal look like to you? What amount of money do you think we should pay? 90 billion has been the figure that apparently the EU is looking at. 20 billion is apparently the figure we've been offering. How many billions of pounds do you think that Theresa May should hand over to European Commission bureaucrats rather than spend on pay rises for nurses and teachers?
Well, that is, if I may say so, a deeply loaded question. The idea that this is sort of quid pro quo, you can either spend it on this or you can spend it on that.
Can't you? You can spend the money twice, can you?
No, what you can do though, Julia, is actually understand that when you are trying to do a deal, that the sorts of figures that are being talked of are very, very small if you set them alongside the damage that we might do to an economy if we actually do crash out and if we do then actually see growth plummeting, unemployment rising, prices rising and so forth. So let's not pretend that this is simple and straightforward. Let's also understand you are the people like you.
You've said people like me 3 times.
Yes, but
I think you think it in a disparaging way.
like
You mean people like me, the 52% of the population who voted to be democratically free from the EU? You mean like those people?
Julia, I don't know if anybody's ever told you when you present your radio show.
Oh gosh,
that
people like me.
You have a conversation. Yes. When I say people like you, I mean ideologically motivated.
I'm not ideologically motivated, other than I'm a Democrat.
You are.
I'm a Democrat.
No. Oh, great. You're a Democrat.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm a Democrat as well. And let me tell you, democracy is a process, is not a moment. And I'm saying to you, and yes, I will repeat it. People like you who argued that this was going to be straightforward, who argued that there was going to be this land of milk and honey. It is not happening. It is going in the opposite direction.
How are those 500,000 extra unemployed people? How are they doing? You know, we had that warning. That's what was going to happen, even not just after Brexit, but when we actually voted to leave, that we were going to have 500,000 extra people unemployed. How's that working out, Alastair? All those warnings we had about what would happen.
Well, you go and find where I said that. I will say Project Fear against Project Lies. It was a dreadful campaign on both sides.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what is happening now to our economy and what will happen to our economy if we crash out and go straight into the WTO, it will make Project Fear look like a picnic. But you people, Julia, don't want to hear, yes, you people, you don't actually want to hear any of the arguments against. You live in a fantasy world where it's all going to be great. And I'm simply saying to you, having been involved in European negotiations, having been involved in the working for the Blair government...
You'd have had us inside the Eurozone. How would that have worked out? Your boss, Tony Blair, and you want... The only person who stopped us going and joining the Euro was Gordon Brown, so thank goodness for him on that front.
And notice, Julia, you never want to stay on a point. You want to move to another one because you don't actually.
No, because I've only got
an
10
argument.
minutes with you.
Stop saying,
Alistair,
okay,
Alistair, you
I'll
told
stay
me,
on.
you told
Julia,
my
I'll stay on
producers
as
you
long
had
as
to
you
finish
like.
quite soon. So listen,
I'll
okay.
stay on as long as you like.
Right, Alistair, here's the thing. What if voting for Brexit isn't all about money? What if people who voted leave when they
Fine.
heard the Project Fear arguments and
So
they'd
you
heard
accepted
and
there's
no,
gonna be economic damage.
and they
You
heard
accepted
you
there's
just
gonna
told
be
me how
economic
to be a
damage.
presenter. Here's how you be an interviewee.
Have you
Listen to the question.
accepted there's going
What
to be economic damage?
What if
Have you accepted that? Have you accepted
Alistair.
that the pound falling, that was in
I'm
part
I'm
the
I'm
consequence
perfectly
of
happy
Brexit?
to accept that.
Have you accepted that?
Alistair, uncertainty, which is where what we have now, brings difficulties for the economy. Absolutely. Once we have certainty, I'm absolutely 100% sure we will be
The certainty of
absolutely
no
fine.
deal. The certainty of no deal. What's that going to
If
do?
we go for no deal, we'll have less uncertainty, won't we? There's an argument for that. This is the
So
thing.
that's a good thing, is it?
I'm
no
quite happy
deal-
to have no deal. Yeah, absolutely.
quite
Like
happy to have no
I
deal. You're
imagine
quite
the
happy to have
rest
lower
of the
growth.
world that trades with the EU without a deal, they're probably doing okay as well. They've probably got higher growth than most of the
These
EU
66
countries right now.
Can I give you a few facts?
Go on then.
66 countries with which we trade as a member of the EU. How's it going, your friend Liam Fox, in terms of getting those in place? When we crash out, we have to start renegotiating all of that. You have businesses who will be listening to your program who at the moment know the regulatory regime that covers their ability to trade with other parts of the world. If we crash out, they have no certainty whatsoever. They probably will not be able to export. So
They probably will not be able to export, Alistair. Seriously.
They won't.
Talk about Project Fear. Can I take you back to the question I was asking? We got sidetracked. What if it's not all about the economy? What if it's about people wanting to have democratic accountability? They want to have all of the laws that govern them made in their own country. What if it wasn't about money?
Like the Great Repeal Bill, which is going to be this is, again, you people, Julia, you talk about it being about parliamentary sovereignty. Parliamentary sovereignty, how does parliamentary sovereignty square with the fact that under the Great Repeal Bill, decades of legislation passed by the UK Parliament is just going to be got rid of? How does that square?
Oh, I've got a lot of issues with the Great Repeal. That's why we have democratic accountability in this country. But you know what? Our MPs elected by British people will have the final say, not Jean-Claude Bleeding Juncker. That's the difference.
So have you accepted my point there? Have you accepted my point that the Great Repeal Bill actually undermines parliamentary sovereignty? Do you accept that point?
There are aspects, the Henry VIII powers I'm unhappy with. I've made that point before. Yes, absolutely. I've got issues with that. But that's
actually democratic accountability is not being served by this then, is it?
We haven't Brexited
because
yet.
as the Brexit white paper said, we always had, this is the words of Theresa May, we always had parliamentary sovereignty.
No, we didn't.
Well, that's what. Sorry, we'll take it up with your prime minister.
But I find it absolutely, Alistair. How can you, in one breath, sit and say how we can't possibly cope with doing anything on our own because we've been doing everything with the EU for all these years, we can't possibly cope, and then say, we've been totally in charge of everything all this time. Which is it? I'm
simply quoting your prime minister, Theresa May.
She's no more my prime minister than she's your prime minister.
She's my prime minister as well. She's my prime minister as well. She's the prime minister, and she said, this is why you don't want to deal. In fact, she said, we have always had parliamentary sovereignty. And you slipped in earlier about these unelected bureaucrats in Brussels. Is the head of the civil service in the UK elected? Is the head of the armed forces elected?
And of course not,
nurses
but
doctors
but they are accountable to politicians who are elected by us, as opposed to accountable to politicians who are not elected by us. Do you understand the difference?
I do understand the difference, but in the European Union, we have chosen, until now, to pool sovereignty.
No, the British people never chose. The British people in polls for years and years and years said we don't want to hand over any more powers, and British governments, including the one you worked in with Tony Blair, happily handed over more powers.
Which were elected by
no,
the British government. Tony Blair wasn't elected. Is that what you're telling me?
They were elected, but they were constantly told by the electorate on the doorstep, "Don't hand any more powers over to the EU." And then you all ignored the silly, stupid, racist people like me who think that we should not be handing more powers over to a foreign body.
No, I'm not saying people like you are racist, Julia. I'm saying that you are misguided in the process you've described. Tony Blair never hid that he was pro-European. Gordon Brown never hid that he was pro-European.
Okay.
We have chosen to pool sovereignty until now. And all I'm saying is that as we try to unpick several decades of legislation, as we try to get this post-Brexit arrangement, the reason why Theresa May looks so wretched is because she is finding that it is going to be impossible to do without damaging
Alastair,
her own country.
In one word, yes or no, because we have to go to a travel break. One word, yes or no. Are we going to get a free trade deal or not?
I don't know, but what I hope will happen is that the British people will actually understand that in a democracy they're entitled to change their mind. This is not going according to plan. We are learning so much that we didn't know during the referendum campaign, and it is only, in my view, a hard right in the Tory party, the hard right owners of our newspapers, some of which you work for, it is their will that is now being served. It is not the will of the people. And a lot of the people who voted for Brexit, the poorest people, are the ones who are going to get hardest hit. And I will keep arguing against it because I think it is a catastrophe for Britain. And it is only, Julia, people like you who refuse to see the facts on it that actually prevent that proper debate from being held.